Summer camp. You may cherish those memories from childhood, or you may remember, I don't know, stuffy, cramped sleeping conditions in 82-degree heat with mosquitoes flying all around your head. I don't know. Just think back. Hopefully, Ohio State football camp going well for both the Buckeyes and the participants. We will dive in here on Buckeyes Live. Appreciate you being here, the voice of college football. It's Wednesday, 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Mark it on your calendar. It should already be there. 324 consecutive weeks with these two. Tony Girdman right next to me. BuckeyeHuddle.com. Get there. Buckeye Weekly is the podcast. Steve Hellwagon, of course, Big Ten senior writer, Bucknuts 247 Sports. I'm going to line us up here. How you guys doing today?
I'm doing good. One of my dogs is making some noise, so we'll have to hone in on that at some point maybe, but no, otherwise doing great.
One of three, right, Steve?
That's one of three, yes. Count? 3 whole dogs.
Better than 2.5, I guess.
Yes. I wouldn't want to see that scene. Okay, let's keep it at 3.
By the way, right? not only is it camp season, it is, if you pre-ordered, it is Phil Steele season as well.
Is it in? Have you got it?
Well, I pre-ordered it, so it came in the mail. But
awesome.
It'll hit the bookshelves here in the next couple of weeks.
Cool. I'll have to keep an eye. I did go to Barnes & Noble to check on it, but it wasn't there. Let me let this guy out. He's all upset over you. What are you saying?
Let me throw in the shameless plug. We expect to have Phil Steele on here at some point, as we have for 5 or 6 consecutive years. And he actually did an extra show for us last summer, so we shall see. But Phil was kind enough to respond to something concerning my book the other day, so we should have Phil on here in the next few weeks. All right, Steve, can you remember back to last Thursday and the last Buckeye camp that was not covered, at least here at the Voice of College Football?
Yeah, they had a camp last Thursday, and they came out of it. Just you figure, as I'm starting to talk, the dogs are acting up. But Reynaldo Perez from Columbus Academy made his 4th camp appearance last Thursday. He was not there yesterday for the 5th camp, which was, I don't know if they told him they had seen enough of him or he had another camp to go to. I'm not sure. But I don't know what his offer status is. I don't believe he's been offered. Columbus Academy defensive lineman Reynaldo Perez, but he has a great looking body, that is for sure, and looks like could be a pretty good fit for them on the defensive line, possibly as an edge player, but he was there for the 4th time. I will just run through some of these offers and people that really stood out for me. Michigan 2028 athlete prospect Jaden Evans from Harper Woods in Michigan. He was great in the 7-on-7 tournament and then came back and was good at camp on Thursday and got an offer. Here's a defensive lineman from Virginia by the name of, Valdin, Valdin, Sone, I think would be how it's pronounced, Sone. He's a big, thick dude, probably defensive tackle, and was very impressive, I thought. Wide receiver Quentin Burrell from Illinois, 2027 prospect. No surprise that he got an offer. The ones I saw, a cornerback, Josiah Molden, came all the way from Oregon, a 2027 prospect. Impressed with him. North Carolina 2027 running back Ty Phillips. He was at the camp and was offered. This was a unique one. Lucas Prock, Lukas, Prock, Prock, 2028 quarterback from New Jersey. He is at the Hun School at Princeton, is I guess how it's all pronounced. But that he was a guy that earned an offer. Zayden Smith, a wide receiver for Pennsylvania. Ty Snell, a young quarterback, 2029 from Tennessee. And George Parkinson, a defensive end from Pennsylvania. He was offered as well. Some other interesting guys that were there. Cooper Witten, the son of former Dallas Cowboys star. What was the tight end from the Cowboys? Witten.
Jason Witten.
Jason, yeah, his son, unbelievable. His son was there. Louisiana quarterback Elijah Haven, nation's #1 quarterback in the 2027 class. Interestingly, I don't think they've offered him. Ohio State has a 2027 quarterback commitment with Brady Edmonds. So interesting there. And Bellefontaine, Ohio quarterback Rain St. Clair, the brother of the Ohio State freshman quarterback Tavian St. Clair. He was at the camp as well. I don't believe he has been offered yet, however.
No, I don't think so yet. And Rain St. Clair has grown since last year when we saw him when he was really, really young. Now he's just really young, but I'm not going to say like his brother, but you could see improvement every year between with his brother, and then also you saw it this year with Rain St. Clair. Thursday, I mostly followed Elijah Haven, who is the number one quarterback, and it's going to be interesting to see what Ohio State does. If they're still trying to figure out the 2026 situation, and the possibilities are dwindling every day, and so I don't know if they necessarily want to reach, but there is a possibility that they will take 2 in 2027. So they had to look at a lot of 2027 quarterbacks over the last couple of weeks, but Haven's a big kid. Looks like you want your prototype quarterbacks to look, but we'll see what happens there. Yeah, you see it there. I'm going to assume they've never gotten a quarterback out of Baton Rouge, and so I'm not expecting that to change now, but anytime quarterbacks are coming and visiting, it's a legit thing. Like there's clearly some interest, and they're not just doing it, I guess, as a school field trip. But yeah, you see it 6'5", 215. He looked like it.
247's pretty high on him. One's across the board.
Yeah, can't do much better than number one, that's for sure. And I thought he looked the part. Definitely, he is well built, 6'5". I think he's a little more than 215 pounds, which is what he's listed at. I would put him probably closer to the 220, 225 range. And if there's any trepidation, that could be it, that maybe he's not as mobile, perhaps, as a quarterback that they want. To me, that would be about the only knock on him that I could come up with as to why they haven't offered him yet, or perhaps there's something I don't know about in his makeup or his background. They are very adamant right now about only taking high culture type guys. And, again, I don't think that's an issue with this kid, everything I saw out of him, but, academics, culture, all that stuff, very, very important for Ryan Day. They're not bringing any suspects into the fold at this point. So I'm sure they have their reasons for where they stand, and we'll see if that changes as time goes on. But again, I think 15 guys were offered that day on Thursday, which is an awful lot. And kind of shows to me that they're operating under this new idea of you're going to fill the 105 with the best football players you can find. And, maybe a couple, 2, 3, 4, 5 walk on type guys, but they have no reason to hang on to scholarships at this point. And fully understanding and embracing the fact that you could lose, instead of 4 or 5 or 6 guys every year in the portal, if you take that many guys and they see no path to playing, you might lose 15, guys or 20 guys in a portal every year. But you just go out and sign 35 guys every year, and that'll be that. But they are passing out offers like they're going out of style.
It will be interesting to see how they continue to fill that spot, because like this year I think they have 91 scholarships, and that's what I don't know if that's the plan moving forward, but they're not going to go to 105 right out of the gate. We'll see. But the situation with Haven was interesting, because a lot of times after camp we'll just grab players and talk to them. They swept him back to the back offices. Like the top prospects will go and they'll talk with Ryan Day and they'll be shown around. And I don't know that he ever came back, and I don't know that they wanted him speaking to the media right now, given the commitment of Brady Edmonds. And I think Edmonds is aware that they're looking at a second guy, but you're like, well, the second guy is the top guy in the class. That might make somebody nervous. But Brady Edmonds, I mean, he's already got he's already submitting like NIL money to help charity in Columbus. Like he's already like all in on being a Buckeye. So it's just an interesting tightrope act that Ohio State's going to have to do with the 2027 thing, where you don't want to upset the bird in the hand looking for something else.
Do you think it's possible, Tony, that when they visit with somebody in the back and they're ready to say goodbye, that they tell them, "Hey, why don't you go pull your car around to the front, and we'll pick you up, or we'll drop you off over there, and then we're all stationed at the back door, obviously, because that's where everybody's supposed to come and go." But I wonder if they have them pull around to the other side for the ones that they don't want to be harassed going out the back way. So yeah,
they all jump in the 8-person golf cart.
Yes,
at the front of the
campus tour,
and then they just go off to the parking lot. 100%.
If you need an 8-person golf cart, go over to the Woody Hayes Center and just hotwire one, because I think there's like 7 of them parked outside, and it's like they are in hosting mode every day over there, taking people over to campus, and this is where you'll eat, and this is where you'll sleep, and this is where you'll go to class, and and these are the bars that you'll never see the inside of, because you'll be gone before the time you're 21 years old. So
they're too busy studying, Steve. Too busy studying.
Too busy studying. Yeah.
I think those carts are like the scooters. You just put a credit card in, you can take them wherever you want.
That could be. I heard a funny story. I was over at basketball Monday, and they had a lot of former players there. Everybody knows about Greg Oden, who was the #1 overall pick in the 2007 NBA draft, and he got injured and didn't hardly even play a full season in 4 years with the Portland Trailblazers. And some piker named Kevin Durant went 2nd overall and has had some kind of career, no doubt. But so Greg got drafted by Portland, and he's 19 years old, and shows up in Portland. And then on social media, they've got all these pictures of him going to the club. And the Portland Trailblazers had to sit him down and say, "Look, you're underage. You can't be pictured with drinks and these kind of things in the club." So they invented the club at his house and brought the club to him. And that may have explained why, maybe partially why they didn't get the full value out of him. But they were trying to accommodate him, and it didn't work out so well.
I'm just hoping they're screening these golf cart drivers these days.
Yeah,
make sure that they can actually handle one.
Given what we've seen.
Okay. Steve has posted in the chat for comments and questions, so please take note that we will take your comments and questions. Wayne Taylor does not have a question, but he's made a rather strong statement. Wayne, thank you so much for the contribution. We appreciate you being here. Thanks again, gentlemen, is the statement from Wayne. Thank you, sir. We appreciate your generosity. Thank you for that. And just a reminder that Steve and Tony show up for us every week, 324 consecutive weeks. These guys show up and deliver for us. So just consider the Super Chat contribution. We understand if you're under some kind of financial hardship. Please like the video, subscribe, do all those good things. Follow Tony at Buckeye Huddle. Also, Buckeye Weekly is the podcast. And, of course, Steve at Bucknuts. But if you are able to financially contribute, we would appreciate that, because, again, Steve and Tony show up and deliver for us. So thank you for that, Wayne. All right, Jackson reminding us we're just 73 days away from the big showdown in Columbus, Ohio State, and Texas. We will certainly get to more recruiting news and camp news. Please leave your comments and questions there in the chat.
Just think, sorry, Mark, 73 days from right now, this very moment, Ohio State fans are going to be like, I can shotgun 3 more beers before I have to get in my seats. And then they're going to do that. And then they're going to get to watch Ohio State versus Texas, and they're all going to be thrilled.
They're also going to say, God damn, it's hot, because last year on that date, it was in the 90s in Columbus. The year before, it was in the high 60s or low 70s. So it's a 30-degree range. You honestly don't know where it could be, but it won't be any cooler than 65, and it definitely could be as warm as 95. So there you go.
Yeah. So it may feel more like a Texas home game for those Longhorns. If it's 92 degrees, and they'll feel right at home.
Yeah.
And
definitely.
Ohio State fans will have an excuse if they come up short on that afternoon. But Tony is right. Yes, we will be sitting just minutes away, 73 days from now, for the big noon kickoff that, of course, is preferred by most Ohio State fans.
College game day coming to town that day, and they've announced that that'll be the last appearance on set for Lee Corso. And
Makes sense.
Back where he began the tradition of doing the headgear, he will finish it off one last time. I can't imagine he's gonna pull out a longhorn head or whatever that maybe he'll pull up something Texas related as a tease, but then we'll put the Brutus head on, I would think.
I don't know, Steve. This is the year John Cena turned heel.
Oh,
Lee Corso could do anything. He might go ahead and
heel on his way going out. Yeah.
Put the
and for nothing else, this was, like you mentioned, Steve, this was the first stop for Lee Corso. This has to be, I believe I've seen this, the most stops of anywhere for College game day, Columbus, Ohio. And number 3, I would take a guess at the Brutus Buckeye headgear being the most donned by Lee Corso. So you might as well just fall in line with tradition for nothing else. There was some speculation during the offseason, this being a Fox game, not that game day has not crossed that line before. Certainly they've generally held true to whatever's the biggest game, but they've preferred their games, of course, and that's understandable. But that Lee Corso being a Florida State guy, that they might have opted for Alabama, Florida State. But they, of course, made the right choice.
I think at this point, Lee Corso is more a college football guy than a Florida State guy, because that's clearly nobody knows him. We don't know him because of his Florida State days, I'll say. So when it was pitched, like it's either going to be Alabama at Florida State or Texas at Ohio State, I always felt like the right answer was going to be Texas and Ohio State. And it's crazy that I was at some of those game days in college, and now this has gone on so long, so long that he'll do it one more time. And I I wonder what the crowd at the big noon kickoff show will be, because I'm sure it's not going to be nearly as big as it has been in the past when these two shows have been together. And it's happened a handful of times where they've got both shows going in Columbus.
Yeah, I don't know what the TV numbers are for the two shows or the crowd that shows up. I've got to figure that game day is significantly ahead, but that the big noon kickoff show is probably gaining some market share and some hold, especially bringing in the likes of Urban Meyer and Reggie Bush, etc. Whoever's up there for him now, Matt Leinart, and is it still Bush?
No, Mark Ingram. Mark Ingram. I think they probably took a step back when they had to go to Bob Stoops for a year, because I think they were gaining ground because they had a really good show, and then Urban went to Jacksonville and kind of threw a wrench in some things there for a while.
I would guess the numbers are probably like, and again, this isn't the exact number, but probably like 3 million for ESPN and 2 million for Fox on that ratio. So maybe it's 1.5 million for ESPN and 1 million for Fox, in actuality, somewhere between, but on that ratio, 60-40.
Extending on the Big Ten and the SEC showdown on and off the field, whether that's television networks or football teams on the field or the TV revenue and so forth. Ross Bjork came out with a statement basically just highlighting this entire landscape of the battle for the CFP format and how that's going to impact scheduling, and that Ohio State is lined up the likes of Notre Dame, Texas, and now Alabama and Georgia in the future. And does it make a whole lot of sense to schedule those kind of games if the CFP is just going to stick to a winning percentage formula to select these teams? And he would love to extend these type of matchups against the best teams in the country. However, does it make sense in the current model? And we need to emphasize big games. So, Tony, where do you stand on all of this?
Well, I stand where Ross Bjork stands, and that is, if you go to the 5+11, say goodbye to the big non-conference games, because there's no point in playing those. you're going to be rewarded for winning. So why introduce the possibility of loss to your schedule? So that's the way things are going to go. And so early season college football is going to be very boring, and it's going to be worse and worse and worse. And so if you want exciting non-conference matchups in the month of September, you want the 4-4-2-2-1. And the SEC coaches are against that because it's harder, and there'd be a 9-game SEC schedule that they don't want. So their lives would be more difficult. Whereas if they can just be held to the 8-game schedule and somebody's opinion that the SEC is beautiful and nice and tough, then boom, they're going to get more spots in that 5+11. So Ross Bjork said that pretty much during the press conference. And then afterwards, I grabbed him, talked to him a little bit about just like the notion of playing games. Like, is that a legit possibility? And, it is. And then I also said that, so if it's 5+11, say goodbye to the Texas games, the Georgia games, and the Alabama games. And he's like, yeah, like there's no point in playing those games because they don't do they don't do you any good. They can only do you harm, because a win over Youngstown State is better than a loss to Georgia in a 5+11. So think about what that means for your non-conference schedule and enjoy your summer.
I'll take the counter approach to that. I think that you look at Ohio State and the years that they play Michigan typically at home, you're not going to have a problem selling those tickets, those season tickets and so on. But a year like this one, if you didn't have Texas on there, you could have some people that would dump out of the season ticket and the season parking and all of that and just choose the 1 or 2 games that they want to go to. But because Texas is on that ticket, you got to get it. And I just remember them talking about how Notre Dame gave them a huge bump in season ticket sales that one year. Well, you had Notre Dame and Michigan on the same one. I mean, that was crazy. So to me, I think that if they play a home marquee non-conference game in years where they don't play Michigan at home, I think it makes perfect sense. And you want that money in hand, God only knows, you got to figure you're going to make the playoff at Ohio State 8 or 9 times out of 10 anyway. So just by throwing your helmets on the field. It is to note, backing Tony's point, that the last 2 national championship teams, Michigan and Ohio State, did not play a marquee non-conference opponent. So, and both got in. Michigan obviously was undefeated. Ohio State was 10-2. I think where playing Texas comes in is if that's one of your 2 losses and you're 10-2 and you lost to number 1 Texas, then you're the top 10-2 team, I would think. Or, right at the top of that when it comes in terms of seeding. And, you may still even get, if they have buys, if it's, I guess they're eventually going to go to 14 or 16. You got to be in the top 2 if it's 14 to get a buy. But, a home game, whatever, the better seed would prevail. I think you help your seeding possibility by playing those games. So I don't think it's open and shut that those games are going to go by the wayside. I think that, they're good business sense for me in seasons where you want to have that boost for your season tickets.
But they do the dynamic pricing and the marquee game. Every year there's going to be a marquee game. It's just sometimes that marquee game is Michigan State or Nebraska. If there's nothing good on a non-conference and Michigan's on the road, like you'll still have Penn State, or you actually won't. Ohio State has always tried to have a marquee opponent. Sometimes that marquee opponent is Oregon State. Sometimes it is Cal. Sometimes it is Virginia Tech. But even in the earlier, even when we're not talking 5+11, they would still try to do this one marquee, and then the rest is whatever it is. If nobody else is doing that, and frankly, I'd say 80%, 75% of the programs, the major programs probably aren't, and so Ohio State still was. When Ross Bjork says there's no incentive to do that, and he's talking about, Steve, you're talking about getting season tickets and things like that and people in the seats. we know with when Gene Smith was around, it's like as long as there are, I don't need 105,000. As long as there are 98,000 paying more than what 105,000 would with cheaper seats, that's fine. There's also TV money. We know season tickets, 15 years ago, you had to donate money to be able to buy season, just to be able to purchase season tickets. Now anybody can buy season tickets. Like, that's how low demand has become since televisions have gotten better and prices have gone up and everything. So
the experience at the stadium sucks. Trying to get in, trying to get out.
So there's all kinds of reasons why demand has gone down, and so the season tickets are available to more people. But when Ross Bjork says that those games would likely go away, I'm going to have to believe him, because he's one of the guys involved in scheduling those, and coaches, don't necessarily want them, because again, this could be a loss. This could knock me out of the playoffs. This could keep me out of the playoffs. And as long as I'm making the playoffs, I'm going to continue to get paid. But if I don't, there's a chance I won't. And that's why you see all of the SEC coaches are like, yeah, we don't want a ninth game. We don't want to have automatic qualifiers, because we're all qualified. We're the SEC. We could get 12 teams in. I think 4 plus the 4-4-2-2-1 is it grants two conferences the majority of the automatic qualifiers, but in doing so, it preserves or creates what could be a better regular season. And as I mentioned before, we've talked about it here before, 30 years ago, all of the non-conference games were between all of the power schools. Ohio State was playing Missouri and, Notre Dame and whatever, Pitt. There was never, Bowling Green, I don't think showed up until 97. Ohio State hadn't played an in-state school in forever, hadn't played MAC schools in forever. And then it became the norm. And I think it's going to continue to be even more the norm if you're not rewarding teams and also not punishing teams for losing to those big schools. And a loss against Texas for Ohio State is much more acceptable in a 4-4-2-2-1 than it is in a 5+11, even though, as Steve said, they're likely going to make the playoffs no matter what. 5+11 is better for Ohio State than a 4-4-2-2-1. But I'm talking about the entire college football sphere and the experience for fans week to week, when you get one of those weeks where it's like, gosh, there's nothing good. There's no big games. I think with the 5+11, you're going to have more of those weeks, and you're going to save most of the big weeks are going to be obviously your conference games.
I do not like the idea of the play-in. I think that is just ridiculously stupid, that you fight so hard to be 10-2 and you're the third team in the Big Ten, and now you got to play the sixth team that was 8-4 or something, or 9-3, and put your playoff berth on the line. If that's what I'm reading into this, mm-hmm. I hate that idea. I think that makes no sense to me. I don't know. It just doesn't make a bit of sense to me.
That's why you have to view the play-in games as playoff games. If you're in the play-in game, you're in the playoffs. It's just you got a regional that you've got to get through first.
Yeah, don't like it.
You guys do a good job of counterbalancing me, because I could produce 50 videos, and probably have at this point, on the subject, and I would never take into account the ticket situation at the stadium. I don't think about the home fans, and that is all valid and very important to those people, of course, and what the home schedule looks like. I simply look at this from what is fair, what's valid, what's legitimate to producing a playoff field. And for me, I don't like the 4-4-2-2-1-3 model, because it assumes which conferences are best. Now, are those conferences going to be the best? Yes, it's almost certain. We know what recent history is, and then with the additions of the schools that have come in from the Big 12 and the West Coast, we just know that those are the best conferences. I understand that, but I hate the premise going into a season that we are elevating two conferences above two others, but it's realistic. Okay.
Yeah, I agree. I think that we're putting them on a pedestal. We have 1 year of data, and it was well earned last year, but I don't know.
I guess it was.
Yeah, I mean,
If you look at non-conference results, it's fairly inconclusive.
yeah. Did Arizona State or who won?
Arizona State showed up and probably played the second best team in the country to overtime into the
Yeah.
last play of the game, and that conference only had one shot. And you could look at 3 or 4 other teams in the Big 12, and Arizona State was probably the best team. They were the hottest team, but were they significantly better? Could there have been 3 other Big 12 teams that could have entered the playoffs and given Texas just as good a game? We have no idea, but there's evidence to say so.
Who is the ACC champion?
Clemson.
And Clemson and SMU both went 0-1. Is that right?
So the big wild card in this is what Tony's alluding to, and that's how is the playoff committee going to, if they've got free run of, okay, you got 5 conference champions and then boom, you've got 11 slots to fill. How are they going to evaluate these teams? Well, they gave us indication last year that Indiana gets in at 11-1, and I'm not debating that they should not have been in, but their schedule was horrific. And then we had SMU selected over Alabama, South Carolina, and Ole Miss. Now, did those 3 teams have a better resume than SMU? Yes. However, SMU did advance to a conference championship game. They had a better record. And I don't know if the committee would stay with that thought process going forward, or was it just because they got boxed in by Alabama had just a horrendous, egregious loss? Ole Miss did as well. And then on top of it, they couldn't elevate South Carolina because they lost to Alabama. They were the hot team with the win against Clemson and some other good teams down the stretch and probably would have gotten the playoff spot, but they lost to Alabama and Ole Miss, so they couldn't put South Carolina in. So was it just circumstances that negated the SEC getting those teams in?
Yeah, I think there's that circumstance. And then also they did not want to punish anybody that made a conference championship game, which is also why I say just get rid of the conference championship games, put the top 2 teams in, and do the play-in games, because winning a conference championship did nothing for anybody other than got them in the playoff. Losing the conference championship game did nothing for anybody because it still got them in the playoff. So those games have become pointless. Now, can you change the markers on what you want to do? How does the committee choose those teams? Sure, but is it fair for this is the question I had going in. Is it fair for the team that loses in the Big Ten championship game to not make the playoffs, and then the number 3 team in the Big Ten to make the playoffs? That probably not. Although last year it would have been okay because Ohio State beat Penn State head to head. So maybe there would have been an argument there. But if you don't make that championship game, then you lose some of your argument. What we're seeing now is that the committee is going back and being told you need to worry more about strength of schedule, and we know what that means. You need to have more SEC teams in. That's what that is. This is just a way to put more of the focus on strength of schedule, which means SEC, as opposed to you lost to Vanderbilt and you lost to whomever, the bad Oklahoma. Those bad losses should count, and we've seen it knock Ohio State out of the playoffs before in a 4-team, not the 12-team. But my last point is, in terms of the non-conference, to go back to that, say Ohio State and Texas played last year and Ohio State loses to Texas, they're not in the playoffs. So again, I'll go back to, don't expect a lot of Texas, Ohio State, Georgia, Ohio State, Alabama, Ohio State in the future with the 5+11.
Absolutely. As opposed to knowing that if we finish in the top 4 in the Big Ten, we're going to make the playoff. And I'm assuming that that's a top 4 in the conference in regards to conference record and as
right.
Opposed to top 4 in the rankings.
Top 4 in conference. And also none of the Big Ten tiebreakers have any mention of your non-conference opponents. It's all Big Ten opponent adjusted. There's no, your record has nothing to do. The tiebreakers have nothing to do if you lost all 3 of your non-conference games. It's only the conference records in there. So that would another point that Ross Bjork says is a 4-4-2-0-2-1 takes a lot of control out of the committee, out of their hands, which some people like. We've seen a lot of people clamoring to get back to the computers. It's like they've forgotten how much people wanted to get away from the computers back then. But of course, back then it was just 2 teams, so you could understand it's probably more palatable now with 12, 14, or 16 teams to go by computers. But I think the more that you can take away from the committee and go based on who actually earns their way in, even though those slots are predetermined, I think that's a sacrifice you have to make to allow teams to earn their way in or earn their way out.
So you get a lot of teams in the SEC that schedule a big non-conference game, but then they also have another big non-conference game because they've got an ACC rival. You also have situations where Notre Dame loses to Northern Illinois. Now, if a team in the Big Ten would do that, slip up like that, and also have scheduled a difficult non-conference game, they could lose 2 non-conference games. They could be 7-2 in the conference and be an 8-4 team that made the playoff.
You're eventually going to have some 14. I think you're probably going to have a 4-loss team in the playoff just because they may end up winning their conference. But in terms of like the ones that you mentioned where they have a good non-conference opponent and then they also have their end of year like rival, I mean, you're talking Florida, Georgia, South Carolina. That's roughly it. Is that right? That have the South Carolina versus Georgia, Florida versus Florida State, Georgia versus Georgia Tech,
Kentucky, if they would ever be a factor.
But that's Louisville. I mean,
yeah.
So I mean that's a standard. I guess that would still count. So it's like, is Georgia Tech a major power? No. Is Florida State a major power at times? Those few schools do what every Big Ten school, or not every, do what a lot of Big Ten schools do anyway. So I don't think that's all that special or should be like, well, the other schools, the rest of like Texas sees that and they're like, well, we don't want that, or Oklahoma doesn't want that. Oklahoma and Texas are both playing Big Ten teams this year. So I think there's the athletic directors in the SEC want 4-4-2-2-1. The coaches don't, and that should tell you, that should give you all you need to know on like the ADs want it because it's more money. The coaches want it because want the 5+11 because it's more wins. And for the fans, that should tell you which would be more entertaining.
Yeah, again, the 5-11 leaves it wide open for the committee to make whatever interpretations, just like they did during the 14 playoff, where they had a list of items and bullet points that were the criteria that I completely understood. The issue was they applied the criteria different to whatever situation or whatever team they were evaluating, and I'm sure they would do the same in this case. I just can't get past elevating 2 conferences that have yet to step on the field and elevating them automatically without any games being played.
Well, I sorry to just completely bogart the conversation. One of the reasons I like the play-ins, and I maybe I've said that here before, is the 4-4-2-2-1 isn't really a 4-4-2-2-1. It's a 6-6-4-4. Like, so the Big Ten and the SEC get 6 teams in, the Big 12 and the ACC get 4. Is that more palatable for those 2 conferences? Like, you do have 4 teams that control their destiny. The Big Ten and the SEC have 6. Like, so like it's still just 2 teams different, but you get more. The Big 12 and the ACC have more opportunity. It's maybe semantics, but it's really not, because if you're in the play-in game, all you have to do is keep winning, and as long as you win a national championship.
Just the issue I have with that is that sometimes, especially in the Big Ten, you've got a significant drop in quality of teams, and you're giving an opportunity for that team, and they would have earned it in a sense, at least in terms of a late season push to win the play-in and then advance from there. But
Mark,
some of the teams
sometimes
we've seen in 6th place in the Big Ten,
as we know, the reason that 6th team is maybe not ranked is because the Big Ten is so difficult and they've lost to some really good teams, as opposed to the SEC where it's an easier road, so you have more ranked teams. Come on.
Yeah, I guess I didn't factor that in. That went right past me.
Come on, Mark.
I know.
Keep up.
What show are you doing
I'll
here?
try to
Come on.
catch on to this at some point. I've got a lot to learn.
Do we want to hit yesterday's camp just real quick on the way out?
Absolutely, we do.
I know Tony said he had some stuff on it. I'll just throw out there the couple. I mean, it was a star-studded camp as well. Angelo Smith, Florida, 2027 safety, brother of Jeremiah Smith. He was offered. Kashawn Bowman from Tennessee. He may have been offered previously, but he was re-offered, I guess, yesterday, a wide receiver. Brian Porter, wide receiver, New Jersey, brother of Quincy Porter. He was offered. And then some star standouts. Jerquaden Guilford, wide receiver, Indiana, 2026. He has been offered previously. He's making an official visit to Ohio State this coming weekend. A lot of sentiment that he is about to commit to Ohio State this weekend. And Neiman Lawrence, one of the top quarterbacks nationally in the 2028 class, was there, and Ohio State has offered. The amount of talent that comes to these camps is amazing. Cameron Wagner, offensive lineman from Illinois, he'd been offered previously. He was there too, and I think you could just plug and play him in the starting lineup in 2028 probably if he comes to Ohio State. So a lot of quality and a lot of talent. I know if Tony's got some other names, those were some of the ones that really stood out to me.
Yeah, Neiman Lawrence, 2028 quarterback, as Steve said, was really, really good on the day. He traveled there with a couple of 2028 receivers, Peter Pierre, who is next in line at Chaminade Madonna, who is 6'3", 215, who looks like a major college prospect. And, of course, 5-star all-everything Eric McFarland, who is at IMG, was there last year at Ohio State, had earned an offer maybe prior to his freshman year. So he is 5'8", but like nobody has any concerns about his size as a wide receiver. Really, really dynamic, explosive. Talked with somebody last year after camp from another school. They timed him at a 4.39 at 7th grade, and they wanted to offer him, but the head coach wouldn't allow it because they didn't want to be like looking like they're offering middle school kids. And also the GA who hand timed him got yelled at because there's like no way that could be accurate. So like he's continued to grow and blow up. And, you know, even he wasn't even doing the one-on-ones yesterday. He was just hanging out with the Ohio State receiver. So it's like, it's already like he's been brought into the program and seems very, very comfortable. And he and Neiman Lawrence are very, very close. They've talked about playing together. I just wrote about that a little bit at BuckeyeHuddle.com, where it's still very early in those conversations. They are mapping out avenues to what schools suit them both, and clearly, I think Ohio State is one of them.
Yeah, there was so much talent there yesterday. I mean, it's really an embarrassment to see the high end talent that just keeps showing up at every position. I don't think it was really strong yesterday on defensive line or tight end. Keenan Bailey didn't spend 1 minute with the tight ends. He got a GA with the tight ends. He was, watching all these great wide receivers. So that'll tell you, the quality of the tight ends yesterday. But to me, I don't have any doubt they're going to find talent. I don't have any doubt they're going to fill their spots. So, somebody on our board, well, recruiting is going kind of slow, isn't it? And I'm like, just relax, bro. After all these official visits are done, there'll be 5 or 6 off commitments here in the next several weeks, I would think.
One last thing, Emmett Queen, 2027 quarterback, was really, really impressive as well. He is the son of former Ohio State defensive lineman Heath Queen, who I think was maybe a member of the 1997 recruiting class or so. Mm-hmm. So he's gotten better over the years, and he showed a strong arm yesterday. So that's an intriguing possibility if you're looking for a second quarterback and one who, being a legacy, is maybe more willing to be part of a 2-quarterback class, but also isn't so highly ranked that Brady Edmonds might get upset about it.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Our viewer, Chad, I believe, has alerted me that I've been faulty in my introductions of Tony each week. He is the Dean of Central Ohio Sports.
That's Steve. Don't even put that on me. That is Steve. I was reading Steve when I was a child.
Goodness. It is weird. Every year, a lot of the old people that old timers that I've been covering the sport with are kind of, the layers of the onion are starting to peel back. And I'm looking around. It's like me and Dom Taberry from Channel 10. And I don't even know who else. Jim Belbiv Naveau from Lima News. And I don't know. I don't know who else is even that dates back to the late 90s or the early 2000s. It's kind of dwindling, I would say.
Folks, it's easy to follow both Steve and Tony on Twitter/X. You just look up their name. You see it right there on the banner, and they've made it easy for you. Speaking of which, I often, if you'd like to follow me on Twitter, have some fun with the likes of our Michigan friends. So I was counting up the number of wins entering World War II. So there was no response here, but I had quite the back and forth on Facebook about this because there was a young lady who is a staunch Michigan fan who I ran into who was trying to enlighten me on basic math skills because she said, there is no way these Ohio State fans get all angry and upset because they know that there's no way that they will ever catch us. And I'm like, well, the lead was 168 wins in 1940, and now it's 34. There seems to be somewhat of a trend there.
Yep. Just keep putting up 12, 13 wins a year. We'll be there sooner rather than later.
So we have fun with that. So you can follow me on Twitter as well. We like to break down a lot of college football numbers right there. But also on the downside, Ohio State fans, I'm going to enlighten you to something that I bring up every so often here, if I can find it. So closer to home, Kenneth Grant has tracked down Ryan Day and just stomped him there. And so that's a call out to all of you Ohio State fans in regards to our channel membership and our channel subscribers here at the Voice of College Football. So when this graphic was made, that I don't have the layering system to change. So I'm going to need to do that. But it's now 11,000 Michigan, 9,000 Ohio State. So we certainly want to get that corrected. So again, Ohio State fans, it's the complete opposite of reality where Michigan got this enormous lead. They started their football program like 16 years ahead of Ohio State, got this enormous lead, and everything else, Ohio State lays Michigan to waste since World War II. Anything you want to count, Ohio State's way ahead, the far superior program. I will argue anyone into the fetal position concerning this. Okay. But here on these channels, we started our Ohio State channel first, and Michigan now leads by 2,000 subscribers and a ton of memberships. So Ohio State fans, please step it up here at the Voice of College Football. You don't want to lose this one-on-one matchup.
Well, Mark, you said it is the complete opposite of real life, which you just perfectly described the internet. So,
yeah, that's a good point right there as well. I was looking through some of the comments and questions that came to the channel this week, and many are not worth looking at, but that's fine. Continue to comment to the channel. Do we have a read yet on Matt Patricia versus Jim Knowles as a recruiter? Do we have any indication this early in the process of how this could be different?
Well, I'll just say Matt Patricia is an active recruiter and is more involved, and see him walking around the camp. He seemed to be having a good time talking with people, and seems more personable than we've heard about. Certainly I've heard about from Detroit people, but I don't know if that's a little bit of a biased source, but also one that was very up close. But I think he's going to do much better. Now it's still going to be all up to the position coaches because those, he doesn't have a position. So he doesn't necessarily have a group of players that he has to recruit. But Steve, from everything I've seen and heard, he's doing better than Jim Knowles, but that's a pretty low bar. That's not a dig or anything. That's just reality.
Yeah, I think Coach Day talked about in their end of spring interviews with players that they really liked Patricia and his one-on-one approach with each guy, and felt maybe some more, warm and fuzzies with him than they did his predecessor, who was, I don't know, abrasive, just crotchety, old. I don't know how you describe that. I don't think any of those words actually properly describe Jim Knowles, but if you crunched them all together, you'd come out with a word, curmudgeon-y. I don't think evil scientist genius. I don't know, but he was all those things, just whatever word spits out when you put all those things in there. He just didn't have time for bullshit. And so, he wasn't going to wait. I tried to walk up to him one day and start a conversation with him, and he just really had nothing to say to me. So it was kind of like, okay, I see how you are. That's fine. So, I don't know. He just didn't have time for things that he wasn't interested in. And, maybe recruiting was one of those things. I don't know. But I think Patricia has been a good addition, no doubt. And we'll see when he puts his defense out there on the field, that's going to be the ultimate decider of whether this was a good hire or not.
You can listen to the show on your favorite audio platform. That includes Amazon, Apple, Spotify, and iHeartRadio and others. If you cannot play YouTube, let's say in your car, for example. Tony, what's going on there at Buckeye Huddle?
As I said, we just dropped a story on Neiman Lawrence, and we talked with him yesterday and what he had to say about Ohio State and the legacy of quarterbacks that they've produced that he likes. So you can find that there. And then we'll be dropping an episode of Buckeye Weekly here in a couple of episodes, I assume, this week, doing some predicting, judging some of my predictions. I'm writing a daily thing, like previewing the college football season at large and involving a lot of Ohio State stuff and making some daily notes and predictions. And so we're going to judge my predicting abilities.
Very nice. I'm in the process of unveiling my predictions as well.
Tis the season.
I have a scenario, Tony, where if you take all of the conference champions and then you take all the 10-2 Big Ten and SEC teams and you put them in the playoffs automatically, I've got 10 spots filled out of 12, and I've got a 13-team lineup of 9-3 and 10-2, like 9-3 strong schedule, 10-2 otherwise for 2 spots, which I get. I understand it's a bit much. I didn't even try to come up that was the result of my predictions, coming up with a 13-team lineup trying to fit into 2 spots.
Play-in tournament. First seed gets a bye, then the other 12 play it.
People are going to have no idea what's going on when that starts, if it starts. The average college football fan's going to be like, what is going on? Who gets what? Why are they playing? They're 7-5. They get it. Oh, yeah, they said they're 6th place in the Big Ten. Okay. Just like they had no idea why Boise State and Arizona State had buys this last year. People were asking, why are they're number 9? They're number 12. What's going on? Steve, what are you working on?
Just may swing by the 7-on-7 today for that. I also got a basketball practice to hit today too, so going to try and hit that. And otherwise, just keeping busy. That's been the motto this summer. It has not been a slow summer, I'll say that. So we'll be in Vegas a month from now, and less than a month from now, and getting ready for the season to start.
Folks, please hit the like button and subscribe on your way out here at the Voice of College Football. And, of course, track Tony and Steve throughout the week. And we'll see you back here next Wednesday, 11 a.m. Eastern Time.